My guest today is an accomplished storyteller who's had an amazing career in sports media. She is a DFW sports broadcasting legend, and currently she is the Vice President of Broadcasting, Media, and Communications for FC Dallas, which of course is in Major League Soccer. Of course, I am talking about the great Gina Miller. Gina, it is such an honor to be chatting with you today.
Sam, that is so nice of you. I'm going to take what you said and change that to the ringer on my phone. DFW Sports Broadcasting Legend. I
You
appreciate
are.
that.
You are. It's true.
I appreciate that very much. Very more than you know. I appreciate that.
Yes. Oh, hey, of course, of course. And I'm sure, as you know, of course, the MLS playoffs are currently ongoing, and the team that did finish at the top of the table in the regular season was Inter Miami. So I really want to hear kind of about this specific story from your perspective. I want to take you back to August 6th of last year when we had that classic match in the League's Cup, FC Dallas versus Inter Miami when Messi, the GOAT, took over Frisco. It's
Mhm.
just amazing how things lined up perfectly, really, for that to happen. What was your reaction when you realized that this match was going to occur?
Well, it was one of those things, it was like a playoff because we had advanced to the next round in League's Cup, and we knew that we had a chance to host Inter Miami going into it because we were the higher seed the previous season. So we knew this could play out, but we didn't anticipate just the drama surrounding this. And we knew the interest level would be high, but this was like, and I've covered them. I've covered Super Bowls and World Series and NBA Finals. This was like that in Frisco at Toyota Stadium on 4 days' notice because we qualified on a Wednesday night and we hosted them on a Sunday night. And we had played Leagues Cup teams. We had played Charlotte, we'd played Necaxa. Nothing against those teams, but they were not the draw of Lionel Messi, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, and David Beckham. You know, David and Victoria Beckham were both there that night as well, and Inter Miami. And what's so great about that, I didn't sleep. I probably didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night in the days leading up to that. I went to dinner with my best friend and I said, look, I'm going to have to bring someone with us because I'm not going to be able to talk, while we're at dinner here. So I was bringing friends as I was, making plans to do things. But what was so great about that night was that while we had the market's interest, we had Dallas Fort Worth's interest, and it's rare for FC Dallas to garner that. Cowboys, Mavs in the finals, Rangers winning the World Series. We were the center of the DFW sports world that Sunday night. And what's so great about that is that if you were here in the stadium or if you were watching that match on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, you were entertained. You got your money's worth because even though we lost, we lost and it was disappointing. It was dramatic. It was an incredible story. We had players stepping up on the highest stage they'd ever played on before. We lost in penalty kicks, but it was the most thrilling soccer experience for not even a regular season game. It was a Leagues Cup game. There's a big stake in it. It was just a magical moment. No matter what you paid, no matter how you got there, no matter what you were doing, if you were a huge soccer fan or if that was your first soccer experience, you had to enjoy what it was because it was one of the best sporting experiences that you can have.
Absolutely. I mean, it was thrilling to say the least.
Yeah.
Considering your work with the media and communications department, what was your preparation like for that match on your side of things?
We were basically order takers at that moment. At that time, after we advanced on that Wednesday, and then we knew we were going to host Inter Miami, it's like we were order takers. Like we were at Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan during the Monday morning rush hour, just getting those orders coming in, coming in, coming in. Media requests from people who didn't even know what soccer was prior to Lionel Messi coming to Toyota Stadium, who needed to be at the match because they've been soccer fans their entire lives. Usually we have to do some pretty aggressive pitching. I mean, that's just kind of what we have to do here at FC Dallas. But for this, we didn't have to pitch anyone. Everyone wanted to be a part of this match. So really, it was reconciling all the inbound media requests, trying to figure out where to put all of the media who were here. We usually have between 30 and 60 media for a typical FC Dallas match. This was triple that. Our press box was full. Our field levels were full. We had to put overflow media mixed in with fans because we had so many media covering this match. And we wanted to accommodate that because we needed to deliver an incredible first impression for media who had never been here before or who had engaged with us. We had people coming from Argentina, from Europe, from Portland, obviously from Miami. It was an overwhelmingly busy time, but great as well. There was some tension during the process too, because MLS came in and had their way of doing things. And, we operate at Toyota Stadium. We have over 50 events here. I mean, gosh, more than that. We have over 70 events in the stadium when you factor in high school football and bowl games and other soccer matches. We have so many events here that our protocols are pretty good standard operating procedures. But the league comes in, understandably, with their way of doing things. So we had to reconcile both of our approaches to how we operate. And you add to that the fact that it was August. And we know what August in Texas is like, right? We had a lot of people who weren't used to the heat in August in Texas coming into the marketplace. And, there were some people who were a little bit punchy coming to town, but it was just really busy. We did a lot of media, a lot of interviews. We intentionally did not say no to a single interview with the team. We kept it pretty customary. We kept the coach, Nico Estevez was our head coach at the time. We kept his media availabilities right on track. There were so many more media requests for him, but we said, nope, we're going to stick to our plan here. He's going to have one big media availability. That's when people get that opportunity to get him. With our players, we kept with the exact same approach. The challenge for our players was all of them were being asked about Messi, understandably, and I get that. It's like playing LeBron James or playing against Tom Brady or Wayne Gretzky. You're going to get asked about playing the greatest in the game, but we were really focused on trying to tell our story at the same time too, what FC Dallas was about. We're a team that builds from within, that develops talent. We don't necessarily go out and buy talent, although we had a great acquisition this offseason who had a phenomenal year for us in Petra Musa. But we were really focused on telling our story. And so we focused on sharing Bernard Camungo, Jesus Ferreira's, Paxton Pomacall's story while we were doing all those media availabilities. I had a team of executives at the ready to do media interviews. So our team president, Dan Hunt, our CFO and chief operating officer, Jimmy Smith, and then me, we were doing interview after interview after interview and sometimes triple booked. So it was really, it was a great experience because, again, we were the center of the sports world and there really wasn't a nanosecond to spare leading up to kickoff at 8 o'clock that Sunday night on August 6th.
Yeah, it was, no, I think it was so awesome that at that point in time, like you were saying, FC Dallas was the talk of the town, and I think that was so awesome to see.
So did we. So did we. And the opportunity for us was to parlay that into longer term relevance and awareness and fan avidity. We wanted people coming to have a great first experience. And from a game perspective, they did. I mean, it was phenomenal soccer. It was a phenomenal match. From a media perspective, it was great. Media were fed well because we know food is important when it comes to media. I've eaten a lot of bad press box food in my day. They had a great seat and opportunity to watch the game. They had great access. Now, Lionel Messi doesn't typically do post game, and we can't control what Miami did from a post game perspective, but we offered our head coach, we offered Alan Velasco, we offered Martin Paz, our goalkeeper. So we provided great media access to this opportunity. So if you came and you engaged with us from a media perspective, and if you're a soccer fan, you had a great experience. And I think we were able to carry that momentum forward. And as a result, this year in 2024, we sold out every single regular season game here at Toyota Stadium, 17 home matches, 17 sellouts for the first time in club history. So that was really exciting, was to be able to carry that momentum forward into a new season.
Yes, absolutely. I always thought the only way Messi and FC Dallas could ever interact would be in the video games that I play.
Nope.
But I guess last year fantasy became reality.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it did. It did. And I think it was better than what any of us could have envisioned. I really do.
yes, it was magical.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Absolutely. Let's get into a bit of your background now. I read that you grew up in a very exciting household. Your mom knew how to throw a party, which It's freaking awesome. You also started riding horses at a very young age, and even the legendary TV show Dallas was being filmed nearby. So, what was it like getting to grow up around all of that?
Yeah, I'm a Dallas native, original Dallas girl. That is true. Third generation Dallasite. Actually, my grandparents were born in Dallas. My mom was born in Dallas. I was born in Dallas. My daughter was born in Dallas, same hospital I was born in. And we grew up in the Lakewood section of town, a very, very old part of town. Our house was built in the 20s. And it was just a magical place. You know, it was fun because a lot of really fun things happened around there. The TV show Dallas had a place in our lives growing up. You know, everybody knows South Fork Ranch in Collin County and Murphy. They shot the exteriors of the ranch there. They shot the interiors in California. Same thing happened with Bobby Ewing's house. I'm sorry, Bobby Ewing's, who's in a Pam Ewing's sister's house. So the house 2 houses down from me, reportedly it's the house where Stanley Marcus, the founder of Neiman Marcus, grew up. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but that's what I was always told as a child. But that house was Pam Ewing and her sister's house after she divorced Bobby Ewing or separated from Bobby. I can't quite remember my Dallas narrative, but they shot Dallas there during the summer, the exteriors, and that's the driveway in which Pam's sister ran over Bobby. It was a very big, big storyline there. So as a kid, I would sneak over there all the time because it was just one house down from us. I would sneak over there and watch. And the crew was so nice. I mean, they would let me not just sneak around. They just be quiet, you can watch. And it was so cool watching that. You know, growing up in East Dallas too, this wasn't quite as close, but this was a really formative memory for us growing up here in North Texas. Oliver Stone's JFK movie was also shot in Dallas, and a lot of that movie was shot on Swiss Avenue, a very beautiful old historic part of Dallas. It's a historic district, the Swiss Avenue Historic District. And a friend of mine, Robbie Wiles, and the Wiles family lived in a beautiful home on Swiss Avenue. And so we would go over to Robbie's house and watch Oliver Stone's movie being produced and shot all along Swiss Avenue. A lot of Dallas people were extras in the movie. And so those are just formative parts of my life growing up. I grew up riding horses. My mom was an equestrian. She raced, not raced, but barrel raced quarter horses as a child, but got into Arabian horses. And I rode horses ever since I can remember. But I became a teenager and fell in love with basketball and boys and got away from horses. You know, horses is being competitive in the show industry requires a lot of time, more than the 1 to 2 hours of practice every day to be a basketball or volleyball player. It's about an 8 hour a day process. So, and we didn't live on a ranch, so went into basketball and sports, and that's how I developed my love of sports and talking. And that's how I knew I wanted to be a sportscaster, was playing basketball. I wanted to be Bob Ortigal. I wanted to be the Mavericks color analyst, and couldn't quite get that role in life because there weren't a lot of opportunities like that for women when I was coming into the sports broadcasting industry. That's now changed, obviously, which is amazing. But that's what led me to a path in sports media.
Yes, yes, for sure. And when you would tell people that you wanted to be a sports broadcaster, people would scoff at that idea. You know, and they'd be like, "There's no way that this could ever happen," right? Little did they know, of course, but sports reporters like Susie Woodhams and Lisa Molosky
Yeah,
were massive inspirations for you.
yeah.
So, I mean, what was it like for you being able to turn on the TV and see these great reporters do their thing? Like, how big was it for you to see that and realize that, yeah, I can do this?
Yeah, you bring up such a good point there, and I get chills thinking about it because I've ended up becoming friends with Susie Woodhams, and I knew Lisa Molosky, um, Lisa Molosky in Houston and Susie Woodhams at Channel 8 in Dallas. You know, it was rare when I saw that, quite frankly, because I was young when I knew I wanted to be a sportscaster. I was probably about 14 years old. That was 1988. And there were just not a lot of women talking sports on TV. There was Phyllis George, the former beauty queen who worked on the NFL Today, did a great job, but she got there through a different path. I think. But when I remember seeing Susie growing up, watching Susie on like the one time she'd be there on Thursday nights, or the rare occasions that she would be there on TV. Not that she wasn't there a lot, just you had George Reba, you had Jerry Orr. There were so many reporters, and generally all those reporters were typically men. She was like the one female reporter. It was a sign that you could do this. It really was. And there is something to the effect of, if you see it, you know that you can achieve it and you can model that behavior. It really was inspirational. And then going to college in Houston, seeing people like Lisa Milosky and Kimberly Harms, who worked at the KTRK, the ABC station in Houston, while Lisa Milosky was at KPRC, the NBC station in Houston. Just seeing that and understanding that, people like me can do that job. It was so powerful and so impactful that's why I'm so glad that this women in sports media, well, it's still an issue. I'm still generally the only woman in the room and the only woman in a meeting room. The narrative and the opportunities have just grown. The narrative has changed, and the number of opportunities has grown exponentially. You see so many more women being equally represented and showcased on network shows, in local media. It's really nice to see, and it's so rewarding for someone like me who saw a few people, not a lot, and now you see a lot more diversity on the air. And I'm so thankful for that, and so happy that this is the progress that we've seen over the last 20 plus years.
Yes, absolutely. And it's always great to have those people that inspire us and show us that anything is possible, right? Have you ever thought about how you've probably been an inspiration for young girls out there who want to become sports broadcasters?
I appreciate that so much. I've had some people come up to me, and it's random. You never know where somebody will come up to you. I was at lunch with our owner and an aspiring sports broadcaster, and this man came up to me and said, "You inspired my daughter to go into sports media. Thank you." And and I paid you to say that, kind of thing. You never know. And I appreciate you saying that, Sam, because I feel a real responsibility to do more in that area, quite frankly, because I still see the lack of diversity in certain, and not just gender diversity, I mean, ethnic and racial diversity in certain scenarios in the sports media industry, that I think there's a lot of discussion, very productive discussion, that could take place to help us see a more equal and level playing field, to ensure we're hiring the best person, but to ensure that we're opening our eyes that the best person may not look like me or you, who may look like somebody else that we may not just be used to dealing with, because we're kind of stuck in our own lanes sometimes. And I'm really focused on trying to help encourage more women to get in the sports space, help encourage more people who may not see people like themselves on television or hear people like them on the radio, to pursue these career opportunities, because this diversity that we're seeing emerge in this space is so beneficial. It opens our eyes to so many more perspectives and experiences and diverse cultures. And I love hearing about, people from different backgrounds sharing their experiences in soccer or basketball, or getting into the sports world, because it just is so eye-opening. That's a great thing about soccer, quite frankly, because we have so many um, different cultures represented in our club, and it's so unique and so interesting. But I appreciate that you said that, because it's something that's really, really important to me to try and help, particularly young women, but really people of all cultures and genders and gender identities, understand that there's a place for them if they're willing to do the work, and it's work. There is a place.
Sports, I think, is an industry where you have to be very passionate about your
Mhm.
work. It's not exactly your traditional 9 to 5 job, right? Right. So I think this is definitely an industry where I think, as long as you have a passion for it and you are willing to put in the work and make the sacrifices that are needed, I think anyone can go far.
You're exactly right. And I think you hit on something that is so critical. It is not a 9 to 5. It is nights, weekends, and holidays in addition to the 9 to 5. And people are still surprised when I say that, but like, when do sporting events happen? Biggest Cowboys game of the year, Thanksgiving Day. Biggest day in the NBA, Christmas Day, regular season, or in the NBA regular season, it's Christmas Day. Dallas Stars always play New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. We at FC Dallas, we're always playing on July 4th. Every other team in every other league has a similar sort of holiday experience. That's when we happen. College football Saturday, it's nights, weekends, and holidays. But to that end too, I think many people who want to work in this industry um, are not realistic when it comes to, it's not just showing up on game day. It is not. I mean, you're working the 9 to 5, and then the game day is the cherry on top of that long work day Sunday. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into whether you work in operations, legal, graphics, broadcasting. A lot of work goes into what we do every single day. And at the end of the year, there's only one team hoisting a championship trophy. You know, there are usually 29 other teams who are not lifting that trophy and drinking champagne in the locker room. So it is a lot of work, and you really have to be passionate about it and willing to do the work, not make a lot of money at the beginning, because if you're smart, you're going to start in a minor league sport, or you're going to start in a small market so you can learn how to do everything possible. I can still pick up a camera if I have to and shoot some video because I shot for so long. You know, if we're in a pinch here at FC Dallas, or if I'm helping out a videographer here who needs a hand, I can pick up a camera and shoot, or hold the microphone, or just do whatever I can because I have experience doing that in small markets across the country. So it is an industry that rewards people who stick with it, who rewards people that does the work, and it's an industry that will reward you if you're willing to do it, because you'll get to witness and have an all access pass to historic moments like the Messi game that we talked about when FC Dallas hosted Inter Miami.
Well, you've certainly put in the work, and obviously, and you've done, a lot of great things. So I mean, I think you're a shining example of that. Absolutely. For college, you attended Houston. How did you decide to go there? And then what was it like adjusting to life on campus in freshman year?
So Houston, I went to U of H, and really the only reason I went there is because they paid me. I mean, I was able to get scholarship money to go there. And my parents were not necessarily these, hey, go to college people. They were both uh, more entrepreneurial, and they didn't go to college. My mother went to what was then East Texas State University, now Texas A&M Commerce, and she dropped out and got in the real estate business. My stepfather was in the coin business. My biological father went to college, went to graduate school at Auburn. He was in the oil business, but they just really didn't push me to do that. But I knew I wanted to, and I knew I had to if I wanted to go into sports media. So Houston paid me the most. They gave me the most money from a scholarship perspective. And I would say it probably wasn't the most challenging educational experience, nor was it, broadcast journalism was still such a burgeoning industry. There was no sports broadcasting department or sports management department that you see now. And so my degree was really in radio, television. But it was such a wonderful experience because I was able to intern for the Houston Rockets. I was able to work at the CBS station, and it was an incredible sports time in Houston. The Rockets won their second back-to-back title. I won an NBA championship ring while interning for them. That was the launching pad for my career, because through that internship, I got a job at the CBS station producing sports, because I had so many relationships with athletes in the market, having worked at the Rockets, and I worked the pass store, right? I would hand out the guest passes on game nights to anybody who came in, whether it was Warren Moon, the quarterback of the Houston Oilers at the time, Craig Biggio, who played for the Houston Astros at the time, George Foreman, who was the heavyweight champion in the world at the time. I was right there at the pass store, and I got to see all these people for 41 home games plus an NBA Finals run. So when I worked at KHOU and got that opportunity, they'd send me everywhere to interview these people because they knew me already. And it's difficult sending a new person into a locker room or into a training facility, but I knew these guys, so it wasn't easier. I mean, it wasn't easy. I would say it was a little bit less of a friction point getting to these guys to trust me when asking them a question, because I was already helping them from a credential perspective, and they just knew my face, so that made it really easy. And easier, I should say. It was not really easy. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but it was a phenomenal experience. Houston is not a traditional, at least at the time. It's changed quite a bit, and the leadership there has done a wonderful job really trying to evolve the school. At the time, it was a commuter college, and not a lot of people lived on campus. It provided a wonderful opportunity for professionals who might be pivoting mid-career or looking to continue and further their education. It was a wonderful school for that. I was in the minority, being a true college freshman, going from high school to college. So I didn't have Greek life because I was already working. I didn't have that traditional college experience. I only lived on campus for 1 year. but so I didn't really experience all that. Our football team played at the Astrodome. Our basketball team wasn't that good, unlike the Houston team under oh my God, former OU coach. I'm having a senior moment. They went to the NCAA tournament last year. Their best player got injured. Kelvin Sampson, under Kelvin Sampson, who coaches at U of H now. They just weren't, it just wasn't the heyday of U of H sports. The Andre Ware had just graduated, Jimmy Klingler had just left. So it was a little bit of a transitional phase from that perspective, but it was a phenomenal time in the Houston sports scene, and I took full advantage of it. There wasn't a game or event that I didn't miss. It was great.
You mentioned your media relations internship with the Rockets, and someone you got to interact with was Carol Dawson, who had a tremendous tenure with
Yes.
Houston as an assistant coach and GM. No, sadly, we lost Carol in September. Just what do you remember from your
Oh,
interactions with him?
oh my God, Sam, that just warms my heart that you brought him up. We called him CD. He was the most warm, engaging, loving person. That Rockets coaching staff was amazing, from Rudy Tomjanovich to CD to the strength and conditioning coach. I mean, oh, the scouts, Bob Weinauer, the GM. I mean, it was such a wonderful staff. And as a basketball person, I mean, I identify as a basketball person. That's who I am. I mean, I learned so much. I learned so much working Mavericks game night with Derek Harper from a player perspective, but just learning about how the league works, the season, the long days and nights, the scouting, how success in the regular season begins in the off season, things that we know to be true now, but we didn't necessarily know back then. He was just so loving and gracious, and his wife was so lovely. He was so warm, and I would ask a lot of stupid questions because I'm a believer there are no stupid questions, and they always appreciated that from me. And I think as a reporter that served me really well because I did not have an ego, or I did not have too much pride to ask a question about something, where some reporters, they don't want to be positioned or perceived as not knowing everything, whereas I want to get the facts right and ensure I'm telling an accurate story. So I have no ego when it comes to asking a question that could be perceived as stupid. I don't care. I'd rather get the facts right. And he was just so loving and kind and warm, and just would let me watch game film. I mean, it was wonderful. I loved working with that Rockets staff. It was such a wonderful experience. And he was so loving and kind. He was like your grandpa. I mean, he really was. In a professional sense, he was great.
That's awesome. That
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
awesome. Um, and then later you parlayed that internship into a job as an associate sports producer at KHOU. And then you saw an advertisement. Then you saw this advertisement to go work in Guam. And then eventually that would lead to you becoming the sports director at KUAM. Do you remember what that advertisement said?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I do, I do. And everyone who worked in TV in the mid '90s probably saw this. It was in these ads in the back of electronic media and broadcasting and cable. They were actual print magazines because the internet wasn't nearly as prolific as it is now. And it said, "Come work in a tropical paradise. Be the sports director of KUAM TV in Guam." And I, you know, when you're going through the process of trying to get your first job, you're just sending stuff out, just sending out. And this is when we sent out VHS tapes, and it was $3.76 a pop in the US mail. So I'd spend about $20 a week sending out resume tapes, and they're the ones who bit. I was like a fisherman casting a line, and they bit. They did want to diversify their on-air offerings, and I was their first female sportscaster in the market, and came there, went there, and I was 22 years old, way in over my head, way in over my head, but had more fun than I should have, and learned a lot. My name was Gina Miller, and I hosted the Miller Lite Sports page. And I would start every segment off with "Huff a Day, Guam. This is Gina Miller, and I'm hosting the Miller Lite Sports page." And I didn't say I'm hosting, but something along those lines. This is the Miller Lite Sports page on KUAM News Channel 8, and everywhere I went on the island, they thought I was part of the Miller dynasty, so they just plopped down a Miller beer in front of me everywhere I went. No relation to the Miller family whatsoever, but it was a lot of fun. It was fun.
And this was, and this was your first gig out of college. You're on a small island in the Pacific, and you're the sports director. This is a very unique opportunity. So what was your mindset as this part of your journey commenced?
I was just trying to stay above water, and I probably didn't do a good job there, in terms of staying above water. I was not a good leader. I've learned so much since then. I was 22. This is 28 years ago now. Wow. I just didn't I wasn't a good leader. I was too young for the role, probably. It was really a leadership role. And I went from one of the most technically innovative and advanced stations in the country, from KHOU in Houston to KUAM TV in Guam. And this is normal. Every small market is vastly different from every large market. They don't quite have the bells and whistles because the finances are different. They have what works for the market, and it was a different market from that perspective, from the technology they had, from the staffing structure, and it was all the right approach. I came in with the wrong mindset. I expected an 11th market mindset and an 11th market studio, 11th market technology. And this was not that, understandably. And I had the wrong mindset and wrong approach. And I could have stayed there a lot longer, but I think it was a good thing that I left when I did. I only lasted 6 months there. It was a good thing I left when I did, because I got that experience. I learned from it how to eat a little bit of humble pie when going into a situation, and understand what the situation is, because that's served me well as I've gone on throughout my career, understanding that approach to things. But I was a little in over my head, but had so much fun covering amazing stories. We covered this incredible paddling tournament, Galiti Cup. It's this world renowned paddling tournament. The snorkeling there is amazing. The volleyball there on the beaches. I mean, it's incredible. They had semi-pro, minor league, baseball and football leagues, the Bud Light Baseball League and the Miller Lite Football Leagues. We covered that just like the NFL. So that was really fun, and it taught me how to be creative. I had to fill 12 minutes of sports at 6 o'clock and 6 minutes of sports at 10 o'clock. In contrast, nowadays you get about a minute 35, 2 minutes to do your sports at 6, and maybe 2:30 to 3 to do your sports at 10. So you think about that, that's a lot of time to fill. And I was producing, writing, editing, and shooting. So every day was easily a 12-hour day, just trying to get all of that done and in time for the sportscast.
It sounds like you were certainly doing a lot.
It
And
was a lot.
yeah, and I also think it's great that you took the opportunity to really, refine your craft there. I think making mistakes, that's how you get better, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
how important was it for you to have those experiences that would allow you to improve moving forward?
Oh, I'm so glad I started in a small market like that. I am so grateful and so thankful, and because I made a lot of bad mistakes. I mean, and anybody who does something starting out, they're going to be a different professional. You'll still have your values and your overall, sense of who you are, but your skill set is going to refine and evolve over the years. And broadcasting is unique. It's a lot like coaching or playing professional sports. You're in the public eye and you make your mistakes on camera in front of a lot of people. And that's difficult. Meanwhile, an accountant's mistakes are probably much more damaging than a sportscaster giving the wrong score on a game, right? But you have more people watching and more people can be critical, and it's tough when you make those mistakes in the public eye and you have the phone lighting up as soon as you get off the air. She got the score wrong. So I'm thankful I made those mistakes, still make those mistakes today, in terms of mispronouncing a word or mispronouncing a name. But I'm appreciative and grateful for the fact that I was able to do that in a smaller market, just because you get more repetitions. I had more repetitions and I was the only one there doing it. So didn't matter if I screwed up at 6, I had to get right back on the air at 10 o'clock and right back on the air the very next day in order to fill all that time that we had. So I got in so many repetitions, which is so important in this industry. It's very much a trade, sports broadcasting. You just have to do the work, make mistakes, do the work, make mistakes, make fewer mistakes, do the work, to get to where you want to be. But it worked out really well. And I think it was the perfect career path for me. I could have stayed in Houston and been a producer of a show, and it may have worked out and turned out differently, but I'm just really thankful I had that Guam experience, because I got to make a lot of mistakes in a smaller market, learn a lot, learn how to shoot, learn how to work with people, experience an entirely different culture in an entirely different part of the world, which was so eye-opening for a girl who'd only lived in Texas her entire life. It was really an incredible career opportunity at such a young age.
Have you ever gone back to visit Guam
No, I
often?
want to. I even have dreams about that. I have dreams about that. I haven't. I really want to. I haven't.
Yeah. You got to go back
Yeah.
sometime and relive some memories.
Yeah, I do. I really want to. It's a long flight. I mean, that is past the
Hmm.
international date line. Guam's tagline is where America's day begins. That's the first place that the United States or that territories that the United States has. That's where we start the day. So it's a long way away though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after your time in Guam, you went to work in Knoxville, home of the Volunteers at
Yeah.
WBIR. You got to cover Peyton Manning's final college season, the late great Pat Summitt and the Lady Vols, and of course the '98 national championship team with T. Martin leading the way. Uh, and I mean, you did a variety of roles in Knoxville as well. I mean, you're anchoring, reporting, producing, you're even doing photography. What didn't you do in Knoxville? It seems like you were doing everything.
We did everything. We did. We absolutely did everything. I was the one-man band in that market. Now it's called a multi-skilled journalist. I was a one-man band at the time. I would anchor morning sports. I'd produce the late night shows. I would anchor a morning sports talk show. My weekends were the worst because I'd shoot high school football on Friday night. I'd have to be up at like 3:30 to 4 a.m. the next day to do the morning show, to edit and update any overnight stories and highlights. And in the Eastern time zone, the shows start at 11 o'clock. So I wasn't home until like midnight or so. Then on Saturdays during football season, I'd shoot all day. I'd shoot like Carson Newman or Maryville College. I wasn't a good enough videographer to get the Tennessee to get the Tennessee job. I didn't get to shoot the University of Tennessee. But and then I'd come back and I'd edit for the 6 and I'd go home, come back the next morning, do the 4 a.m. show, from 8 to 10, do the 4 a.m. show, that whole thing. And then I had to produce the Sunday night show, which went on the air at 11:30. So I'd go home for a little bit, come back, edit all the NFL stuff or golf or baseball or whatever. College football polls would come out on Sunday. So I'd edit that. We'd always have a big college football segment, a big lady vol segment. College basketball was huge, baseball was huge. So it was so much work. It was so much, and it was so hard, but it was so much fun because it was, in terms of cultural moments. I mean, Peyton Manning at the University of Tennessee, really not a bigger time in the SEC. Those Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama games were amazing. Then you have T. Martin lead the team to the national championship the next year, something Peyton couldn't do, which was the narrative. And then you had the Lady Vols and Pat Summitt, who just was such a remarkable leader. And I loved working with her. And then you had the men's basketball team, who was really good for a while. Then you had the baseball team who went to the College World Series. I mean, it was a phenomenal time. And then I covered a lot of NASCAR while I was in Knoxville, which was so much fun because Bristol Motor Speedway was about 90 minutes away. And it was just a great experience having the chance to do that because now I'm doing an event with Texas Motor Speedway on Thursday. Those relationships that I have built dating back 20 years ago really are paying off and are relevant today. And that knowledge that I had from those experiences in those smaller markets covering those incredible sporting events still relevant to this very day.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, Knoxville is just one of the most famous college towns in
So
America.
good.
What was
Yeah.
it like getting to be immersed in that college town environment during those few years?
It was so much fun. I mean, I was still young. I was 97. I was 23 when I went to Knoxville. 22, 23. Right before I turned 23. So I'm still young, still college age, if we're being real honest here, right? I'm still college age. And I just got to experience a lot of that college life. I really did. Went to a lot of the same places a lot of the kids went to. But also got to experience the beauty of East Tennessee. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and the Smoky Mountains are just majestic. And got to go hiking for the first time because, as you know, Dallas is very flat. Got to experience mountains and rivers and really just got to experience a part of the country again that I did not have any experience with growing up, which was just wonderful.
After a few years at Rocky Top, you came back home to Dallas and you worked for the Cowboys. And What I find interesting is that the Cowboys were one of the first teams to really have their own in-house media
Mhm.
department. Now every team has one, right?
Yep. Yep.
But the Cowboys were really ahead of the times, on that front. So, how does your work with the Cowboys back then in their media department, how does that compare with what you do now with FC Dallas? And just in your opinion, how is the whole team specific media department thing? How has that evolved from your perspective?
It's evolved remarkably. It's really remarkable. The Cowboys, Dolphins, and Giants were like the first three NFL teams to really branch out and do this. And that is a credit to the late, great Tex Schramm. He was a marketing genius, the former general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, started the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. We know what an iconic brand they are. And the Cowboys have done such a good job of maintaining the relevancy and growing that brand and growing their in-house media offerings. I think the Cowboys are brilliant in what they do because they cover the team pretty objectively. And I remember the internet was really just forming when I worked for the Cowboys, and DallasCowboys.com was existed, but the content offerings weren't as robust, and they've really built that up from the late 90s onward. And they're clear that they want to be a pretty objective arm of coverage for the Dallas Cowboys. And to their credit, they are critical when they need to be, and they get a lot of criticism on both sides. They're not critical enough, or they're too critical, but they try to be objective because they realize that they can get people engaged with the product when they do that. And I just think they do a masterful job. The content team there is the best in the business. And I think so many brands have, in sports brands also outside the sports space understand what an opportunity that presents for sponsorship, for telling your team's story. We're seeing such a fundamental shift in the sports media landscape in the United States with local TV newsrooms contracting. People are losing jobs in local newsrooms at a remarkable level. And this has been going on for more than a decade. And Gray just had a huge round of layoffs, which is so disappointing because I have so many friends and colleagues who work for great media stations. But this allows these teams telling these team stories, allows these brands to get their stories out to their fans as well. So we try to really, try to do what the Cowboys do. We have an MLS budget. The Cowboys have a Dallas Cowboys budget. I would say that exceeds an NFL budget because they are just so great at what they do. But we really try to use what they do as inspiration. They do documentaries on former players. They do behind the scenes content. They do incredible features on the Cowboys cheerleaders and the players and the personalities who built the team and built the brand to be what it is today. They're so focused on doing great things. And we try to take inspiration from them and what it is that they do.
I think, in terms of your work with FC Dallas overall, I think you've done a great job of really bolstering the team's, presence in the crowded DFW sports market. Because there's so much going on at the pro level, minor leagues. There's colleges as well. So there's a lot going on. But I think, you've done a great job of that. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your work with FC Dallas?
That's a really good question. We do get to tell some amazing stories. That's really cool. And working in local TV news, I would answer that bar none. Getting to tell incredible stories is and getting to cover history is the most rewarding thing. I think just growing the avidity level of soccer in this market is rewarding. And getting media to come ask us questions and ask us for interviews rather than having to pitch. We're always going to have to pitch, no matter who you are. The Dallas Cowboys have to pitch, the New York Yankees and the LA Lakers all have to pitch. But their inbound media requests are a little bit more than I would say a lot of teams are. But our inbound media requests as I look at my area of business, if I get really focused and niche here, as I look at my area of business, our inbound media requests have gotten greater over the years than when I first started here. And I think that's a testament to the efforts we're doing on the media relations side. From the content perspective, I'm really, really excited about how much we've grown in terms of our overall platform, the engagement levels that we're seeing on social and digital media, how people are engaging with the content we're producing. That's grown exponentially year over year, and I'm really proud of that. And ultimately, it's about driving revenue and putting butts in seats and raising our relevance in the Dallas market and beyond. And we're doing that. 17 sellouts this year, I think, is a testament to that. And that really fills us with pride. But getting to experience incredible moments like watching Lionel Messi and FC Dallas go toe to toe for 90 plus minutes, that's an incredible experience too. That makes you really happy and proud to be of something that's growing in this market. And obviously, World Cup, getting 9 World Cup matches and being a part of that process, 9 World Cup matches in North Texas. That's something that we're really proud of as well. So there are a lot of things that I'm proud of. It's hard to think of just one. That's a good question.
What does storytelling mean to you personally?
It means being authentic and doing the story justice. And this is what, if you heard me talk to someone, you hear me say it, there are usually 3 sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth, which is probably somewhere in the middle. So for me, it's really important to understand all aspects of the story. That's what's so critical and so important for me. I just want to make sure that when we're telling a story, we're doing so authentically and in a manner that does the story justice. We want to be creative, we want to showcase, we want to make it fun and memorable and entertaining, but at the end of the day, it has to be accurate. And especially, and we could go off on a tangent here, especially in this era of lots of inaccuracies being positioned out there and being thrown out there and taken as fact. You know, the clickbait that we see with social media headlines and things of that nature. We have to ensure that what we're doing is accurate and is a fair representation of what is happening or of what the facts are. We can be creative and we can showcase and we can edit and do things that are really cool, but we have to be accurate and do the story and the people we're talking about. We have to do that story justice. And that's what's most important to me, being accurate and doing the story justice. And part of part of that process in doing the story justice is making sure we're accurate and fair, but also having fun with the story too. I mean, we work in sports, it's a sandbox of life. You can have fun with the story, you can be creative, you can showcase things in a way that haven't been showcased before through editing or working with audio or working with some videography elements that are really cool. So we want to be creative, but we want to do a good, authentic, accurate job in telling that story.
Thank you so much for honestly just letting me have this opportunity to chat with you today. Just, oh my gosh, such an honor, such an amazing experience. Thank you again, Gina.
Oh, Sam, it was such a pleasure to chat with you. I really appreciate the time that you took to accurately learn some of the facts and learn some of the things. You did a great job working to understand my narrative, and I really, really appreciate that. This was an absolute pleasure to visit with you. And when you post this, I'm going to take that clip from off the top, Dallas sports broadcasting legend, and use that as my phone ringer so my daughter can hear it next time somebody calls me.